what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 125 today for the Brazilian Grand Prix in Season 6. This is the second last episode of this season, and this will set up the finale. But going into this one, we're looking pretty comfortable actually in the championship. A nice little gap to Devin Butler in second place after his very dominant win last time out of the USA Grand Prix. Weber in third, and pretty much at this stage, I think you could count out Max Verstappen in the championship fight, although I think technically maybe he's mathematically still in there. I'm not quite too sure, but it definitely is a 3-horse race between myself and our two F2 counterpart AI drivers, which is fantastic to really see. Last time was a very difficult episode, so if you didn't see that, by the way, be sure to check that one out. We had to do a very clever tyre strategy to get ourselves back into the podium contention. We did well where Weber faltered with a 2-stop strategy there for us, so we set ourselves up quite nicely. But Brazil historically has sometimes been quite a difficult one. The AI are so supreme through this center S on the exit, and tyre wear can also be a factor. And it is, of course, Brazil. Like in real life, just in the game as well, the weather could play a factor, and you just never know what could occur around Sao Paulo. So let's go to Saturday then and see how we do over one lap.
So it's time for qualifying here at Interlagos, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. The teams have completed their preparations and are just waiting for the pit lane to open before they take to the track. And as we wait, poised for the start of what will hopefully be a thrilling qualifying, why don't you tell us, Anthony Davidson, about the things you can do to really get the most out of a car in a session like this?
Well, you're largely limited by the Parc Fermé regulations, of course. Back in the old days, pre-2004, you'd work on both a qualifying setup and a race setup over practice, and then swap them over after qualifying. So the race car was quite different at times to the qualifying car. Nowadays, though, you have to find a compromise that works for both. There are a few things that you can still adjust during the session, such as the differential, the brake bias, and the front wing angle, but that's about it. So it's more about optimizing what you do have and adapting your own style to suit the track conditions.
So pretty overcast conditions then as we start our first flying lap in qualifying here. Like I mentioned, the weather can play a factor at Sao Paulo. You just never know. The indicators right now with the email system have said there's no rain forecast for this weekend, but I never really truly trust this game, especially on a track like this. So we'll just see how it goes through the weekend. But the sun is peering through the clouds there on the right-hand side as we come through to the end of our first flying lap. Pretty decent, tidy sectors 1 and 2 across the line, and just under Lucas Weber's time there for second place. He's a provisional pole. And then as we start in the middle of our second lap, we've got Devin Butler now on provisional pole. So the Red Bulls looking quick, or at least Butler looking quick. Russell yet to set a competitive lap time there. Verstappen in P4. So at the moment, as it stands, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of our 4 kind of main rivals in the championship, including myself, of course, as we now come through to the end of the lap. Just over 1/10 gain there. So not too much improvement there. We go faster, but it's still going to be P3 behind Lucas Weber. Butler still remains on provisional pole as we now come through on our third and final flying lap there. A little bit of traffic with Sebastian Vettel holds us up just a tad. Bit of hesitation from me on the right-hander, but as we swing through into the final sector, we've gone purple first sector, red second sector, just by a smidge, and then we gain some time on the exit here and up the hill, getting a much better run than we did on that second flyer, and so we do gain more than a 10th here. DRS open to the line now. Lance Stroll's gone P4 for us across the line, and it's P2. So will it be P2 once again to Devin Butler? No, it won't, because by the end of the qualifying session, few other people set lap times, and it's a 1-2 for Red Bull Racing for the first time in a long while. So I said Red Bull were looking pretty strong, at least Butler was, but no, both Red Bulls are, and it's a shock pole position for my old teammate from last season, George Russell, the man who swapped positions with Lance Stroll, of course, earlier on this season at the Belgium Grand Prix to drive for Red Bull for the remainder of the season. He's grabbed pole position ahead of Butler then, but the Red Bulls looking supremely strong. So that's quite worrying for not only me, but also Lucas Weber, if he wants to get kind of give himself a good outing for the championship, of course. Going to the last episode, this race will set up whatever happens in that next final race. So for both me and Weber, maybe a little bit concerning the Red Bulls have locked this out. And Ricciardo looks pretty decent. He's in P4 there. And again, the Ferrari's not turning up. Verstappen not turning up. He's down in P8. So it really is going to be, I guess now you can very much say, a three-way fight in this championship now. Myself, Weber, and Butler. It's the final 2 race. This one, though, like I mentioned, is just equally as important as the next one because this sets up the finale. You know, this will set the kind of tension in the air for Abu Dhabi and how I go into it mentally and how Butler and Weber may take that last Grand Prix. And like I mentioned, Brazil can always be quite tricky in the race with tyre wear. Traffic can be an issue as well. And if it was overcast the entirety of qualifying, you never know. The game might just spring some surprise rain on us. So let's find out. Let's go to the grid for the second last race of the season, the Brazilian Grand Prix.
As surely as the sun rises in the morning, the Brazilian Grand Prix packs out the grandstands and creates incredible drama. Title deciders, heartbreak, triumph and home glory. All these and more can be found in abundance here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Interlagos, always a very special race here in Brazil. It's a 2.7-mile circuit with 9 lefts and 6 rights for a total of 15 corners. The fastest lap today should have an average speed of around 135 miles per hour, if of course the weather stays dry until the end of the Grand Prix. With so much on the line here today, I can't help but shake the feeling that we're going to have a bit of pushing and shoving, Anthony Davidson, especially into turn 1 this afternoon.
Well, we do see a fair amount of that here at Interlagos, Crofty. It's a tricky braking zone, of course, as you're heading downhill into the Centre S, which always makes it easy to lock the inside front and run a bit wide. We've seen a number of occasions over the years with someone from the leading group taking a bit of a knock on the first lap and having to recover. That's one of the reasons we've had so many exciting championship fights here. Hopefully, though, it'll be a clean start, of course, but as you say, I wouldn't be too surprised if it's not.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. George Russell did very well in qualifying yesterday and will start today's race from pole position, edging out Devon Butler, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Weber, Ricciardo, the engineer, and Stroll, Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly, and Lewis Hamilton, Norris, Giovinazzi, Kevin Magnussen, and Grosjean, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Sebastian Vettel, and Kimi Raikkonen. Kvyat, they've taken a grid penalty, and Sergio Perez completes our grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Alright, so here we are then on the grid, and thankfully for the sake of keeping things fair between the championship rivals, myself, Weber and Butler have not been hit with any penalties, so thankfully it's going to be a straight fight then for this race, and I hope it is for next episode as well. Strategy-wise then, our team are suggesting a one-stop from soft to hards, which is peculiar. I do know the one-stop with soft to mediums is just about possible. I'm not too sure with the tyre wear of this Renault from previous races, but we did show last episode we can pull off miracles like that, so let's just keep an eye on that in the race and see how things are, see where we are. But first and foremost, from P5, we're going to have to go guns blazing, trying to, overtake our teammate, but then also Butler in second place, and it looks like the 2 Red Bulls in tandem with Russell on pole will be a force to reckon with. And also, we've got Ricciardo ahead of us, so we might have quite a fight on our hands at the start of this Grand Prix. So let's get into this then. The penultimate race of this season as we go to 5 red lights here at Sao Paulo for the Brazilian Grand Prix. 5 red lights are out, and we're underway from P5 on the grid, and it's an electric start from Daniel Ricciardo. Slow one from us. We try and go defensive at Stroll with 3 wide. It's 3 wide ahead. Butler, Weber, and Ricciardo as Russell's in the lead. Butler gets into second place, still maintains that, shoves Weber off a little bit on the exit there. Lance Stroll's down the inside to try and get a toe off Daniel Ricciardo. He might make a move. Weber going for a pass, and Butler for second place. He goes the long way round. We've gone the long way round on the Canadian in the Ferrari, and we're back up into P5. Weber still fighting Butler on the exit there. So the 2 F2 rivals fighting hammer and tongue up the hill. Weber on the inside, Butler on the outside, but surely Butler is going to have the better line. Yes, he does on the left-hand side as we go down the crest, and so he maintains the 1-2 for Red Bull, but Russell already with a nice lead then in the leader. Butler second place, Weber third, and Ricciardo ahead of us as we're already hampering him a little bit, so you can tell already in the corners we've got the advantage on the Mercedes car. Maybe just in a straight line the Merc's going to be an issue. Let's see Ricciardo going very defensive through the last bend as we now go up the hill, overtake mode, rich mix, of course, no DRS till lap number 3, but in the slipstream we are going to pull and pull on that Mercedes car, going to go to the left hand side there and try and make a pretty easy pass, we would hope, in a straight line up into P4 this Grand Prix. Have to get it done under braking, but scrub him out wide, and we're up into P4 then. And now we look on at this battle between P1 and 2, the two Red Bull cars. And surely you would think if they're playing it smart, they'll just let Butler get away in first place. But Russell fighting back, the two Red Bulls side by side into turns 1 and 2 through the center S. Their exit, Weber closing up, so it might become a three-way fight for the top 3 positions. Brilliant stuff. You can see they're pretty much covered by less than a tenth of a second there as Weber tries to look down the inside whilst the Red Bull's still looking at his teammate there. I think it's still Butler in second place. Russell holds the lead still somehow, but now Butler, I think that's him cleanly through. Yes, it is. So Devin Butler now leads the Brazilian Grand Prix. Are we going to see what happened at USA last time out, him going away and dominating this GP? Might be, because Russell immediately now on the very next lap this is now defending against Weber, and you can see there Weber got very close to making some contact. I don't know what that was, bit of awkward movement in the brake zone, but it means Weber stays put in third place. Meanwhile, I'm still struggling to get up to pace, to be honest, here at the moment in P4. Bit of a gap as now Weber fakes the left, goes to the right. Oh, it's a sweet little dodge and weave there from my teammate, and he goes the long way round. Yes, he does. What a move there from Lucas Weber. And so now my two championship rivals are 1 and 2. Exactly what I don't need in this Grand Prix. And so I need to try and get a move on. We are slowly starting to catch up to George Russell there in P4, as you can see, as we cross line for lap number 7 then. So quite a few laps have gone by now in this GP. So we've been watching on the battles with the AI. And you can see now the battles continue as now Weber and Butler are side by side. And our teammate is up into first place, the Brazilian Grand Prix. Russell now closing up. It's going to be maybe 3 wide again for the top 3, and I'm now licking my lips as we move back on board with us into Sector 2. We've closed right up there, and we're in this fight. This 3-way fight for P1 to P3 has now become a 4-way fight, P1 to P4. We're there, and we need to try and announce ourselves now as we're right up the gearbox of Devin Butler, and we need to try and find a way to get past both these two Red Bulls and then chase after our teammate, because either way, but seeing Butler or Weber in first place always gets me quite anxious, because so far this season the pattern's been once Weber or Butler get into first, it's so easy for them just to turn on this alien-like pace and just pull away. So I was quite anxious at seeing Butler in the lead. I'm still quite anxious at seeing Weber now getting a little bit of a gap already to George Russell there. So we need to try and get a move on and get a good enough exit up the hill now, chasing after Butler. We'll have the DRS available, of course. Purple first sector for us, red second as he held us up, but here we go now, the move on the right hand side, and we're cleanly past him up into P3. Meanwhile, Russell pressurizes Weber, and we're going to stick with them and still be within arm's reach of Russell as we get through into Sector 3, and we've got a great run, and we're going to send it down the inside there, get a little bit aggressive with Russell. Sorry, mate, but I had to get that done, and we're up into P2 now, but because I went so wide on the exit, we're now susceptible to being re-overtaken now. The two Red Bulls are going to be right on the back of me there as Russell is practically pushing me down this straight with the DRS. Meanwhile, Weber's getting away. It's going to be a massive dive down the inside from, I think that's Devin Butler instead. Yes, it is Butler. He's done Russell. He's trying to get me as well. The two Red Bulls now making a little bit of contact, so they slow each other down. I've gone a little bit wide there on the racing line. The two Red Bulls now are having a drag race down to this next corner as we take the racing line and just continue on. So it's a 1-2 now for Renault, but for not too much longer, unfortunately. These Red Bulls are so quick in Sector 2, and it seems like also they seem to be a little bit quicker than us in a straight line here as well, because every time in Sector 3 they're mincing me with the DRS as we go and try to get it down the inside. It's going to be very close on the left. Our rear end stepped out massively. Bit of more contact made with Butler. The rear end steps out again, and Russell now gets in the mix. We're going to go left to right there, do what Weber did before and fake the move and then get it done on the other side. The long way round. Can we keep it going there? We're still going to be side by side on the exit. Butler's going to make some more contact with us and push us wide, and that allows Russell to get in the mix. We're going to push him wide, vice versa, and keep that P3 then. It's absolutely non-stop action in the first 12 laps of this Grand Prix. Great to see, but not so much for the championship maybe, as Weber is pulling away kind of under the radar on the minimap. You can see is now Russell tries to go for a very ambitious move on the outside. We try and squeeze him wide, but he gets the nose in. He's made contact with us. We almost spin around. We control the car, but Russell's got the move on the inside, and Verstappen now comes in out of nowhere. The Ferrari with 3 wide. Renault v Red Bull v Ferrari. Verstappen on the inside. We lock up on the front right tyre as we hit the grass. We're really trying to wring wring the neck out of this car to maintain the position against Russell, at least, because Verstappen involved in this fight is just another kettle of fish, a different spanner in the works, basically, because the Ferrari car, of course, we know is very good in a straight line. So I need to make sure we make the most of our car in Sector 2, which we do so, to be fair, and we get a mega run. So actually, to be fair, I can see why maybe the Red Bulls are looking pretty quick compared to us, because even I can close up a Verstappen quite quickly there with DRS. Just the nature of this circuit, I guess, with the slipstream up the hill as we get the move done. Back up into P3 now. Verstappen, though, obviously, like I mentioned, in a very quick Ferrari, so he's going to have a good go to maybe try and get the place back. We go defensive to the inside. A little bit late there from us. Lock up on the front left tyre as we scrub off wide, but maintain the position for now. But how much longer can we go like this with the Ferrari behind us? Well, we'll have to see as we go on to lap number 14 then. Teammate in the pit, so Weber's in. It looks like Butler is also in for their first pit stops of the afternoon, and I believe they're both going to go onto the set of hard tyres. Now, whilst we've been fighting, you didn't see it, but at some point, my engineer asked me, do I want to change my strategy to a set of medium tyres? And I said, yes, we're going to try that. If they think we can do it, then I'm confident of that, because we did that last time at USA, and it just about worked for us. So we're going to come in for our one and only stop this afternoon, but instead of going to the hard tyres, we're going to go to the medium tyres. So we've stretched our stint for about 2 or 3 more laps than everyone else, so that hopefully will help us out with the tyre wear a little bit. And so even though if we lost time on these in laps, we should gain it back later on these mediums. So as we now come out the pit lane there, look on the right hand side, where on earth are the cars we're fighting going to be? There is Verstappen, I think, so we should be comfortably ahead of him actually, and so we're going to be in a bucket of clean air. So we're at P3, so it's Weber in first place, from Butler in second, myself third, Verstappen fourth. Russell appears to have dropped off quite a fair bit, and so now we just try and use this clean air and these fresher medium tyres to push on and catch up to this man Devin Butler. It takes us all the way to lap 24 then, so that's a good 6 laps then of just pushing flat out to try and catch him. In the meantime, we set the pass up the Grand Prix as well whilst we did it. Now our tyres are starting to go off a little bit. If you can see, I've set 2 red sectors, so we've closed up just as the tyres start to give way a little, but now we're within that 1 second to make a move hopefully in the next 1 or 2 laps as we get on to the last portion of this Grand Prix. Only 11 laps left in this GP, then it's flown by with all the fighting we had in the first stint. So here we go now, finally maybe able to make that pass for P2 as we pull alongside on the right, the long way round into turn 1, but Butler keeps his nose in, but surely we're going to get the scrub off. Yes, we do, but we're a bit slow on the exit, and you can see with the proximity arrow, he's still right up our chuff there. He's going to have DRS, of course. We're a little bit defenseless here in that kind of way, and look at the speed he's gained there. The Red Bull is actually looking so quick these days in a straight line, actually. I don't know what's actually occurred, but in the last third of the season, the Red Bull turned from what was a dog in a straight line to not too bad, actually, there. So I don't know, the last minute upgrades they brought in halfway through the season have aided that, but we're now right up the back of Butler, and he is really parking it on the apex there, and parking the entire factory of Red Bull on every corner there you saw as we go down the hill. So he really wants to keep this P2, of course. It'll do a wonder for him in the championship, as Lucas Weber, like I said, has pretty much gotten away in P1 and solidified that first place win at the Brazilian Grand Prix, unfortunately for us, but we can still do some good work and maintain that second place to help us in the championship fight. We get back up into that P2, but once again, Butler's going to have a great run down this backstretch as we go towards Sector 2, then down the hill. DRS open for the Brit in the Red Bull on the left-hand side. We're on the outside, lock up on the front left, but this time we keep the nose in a little bit better, and we're able to keep it side by side there. This time, not going to let him shove me completely off the road, and we maintain that second place, but into the next right-hand, a little bit slow and wide, and the understeer kicks in, and Butler somehow finds a way to get it to the inside, and so we're now battling in Sector 2. Usually never happens here at Sao Paulo, but we're neck and neck through that entire bend. We get the exit done and get to the inside to defend the position there, but really great to witness. I don't know how Butler found the confidence and the space, really, to be honest, to switch it from left to right there to get it into Sector 2, but he's done so, and now we actually find him flying past us into turn 1, but to be fair, probably a good place to be, because now we can do what he's done to us so many times so far in this GP and get him back, hopefully, with DRS. We go to the same inside he's gone to twice now in this second phase of the GP. Get it on the inside, he's still there on the out, but you can see we've got the better line, and we can do exactly what he did to us so many times before and squeeze him out with the elbows and maintain the P2. But now the overcast conditions are creeping in the last 6 laps of this Grand Prix, and well, surprise, surprise, once again we find ourselves battling battling Butler, and he's again on the inside. Can we once again find the confidence to keep the foot in on the right? Butler, he's just going to squeeze us out a little bit too harshly there. We have a little half look, and we get oh so close to the gearbox. And now, as you can clearly see behind us, Max Verstappen has also joined the fight, unfortunately, there in the Ferrari. And we're cutting it mighty fine with Butler, I must say now, in those last two fights. And now we've made a mistake. No, on the rear end. The rear end stepped out for us. Maybe the tyre wear is finally kicking in for these mediums. And we made a mistake, and that allowed Verstappen to have a little sniff down the inside, and has allowed Butler to maybe break that 1 second gap there. And by the time we get on through now to lap 34, we've got 2 laps left of this Grand Prix, and Butler's home and dry because Verstappen's been hampering us, and we've been going back and forth like that so far for the next few laps now. And on lap 35, he's back up into third place as it stands. We're down to P4, and we're going to try and get him back, but this has happened pretty much now for the last lap or two, this yo-yo effect between myself and the Dutchman as we pull through with DRS. You can see the straight line speed difference, but on the braking there, going very aggressive to get the place back into P3. But quite peculiarly also through this Grand Prix in this second phase, we've also been running out of ERS quite a lot. On the right hand side you can see I'm quite low, which is weird with a maxed out career mode car, but we've been running a little bit lean on that, so that's it's meant we've had to be a little more tactical with the driving that we've done at the end of this Grand Prix. So you can see on purpose I'm kind of not putting up much of a fight with Verstappen into turn 1 because I know I can get the DRS back and re-overtake him, and that's the only way to do it with the kind of lack of massive amount of ERS for the entire lap, and also the fact that my tyre wear is now kicking in finally compared to those hard tyres on the Ferrari car. So for a second time then in this episode we get it done on the outside on the red car, and we're up into P3 once again. But unfortunately it's an opportunity missed maybe to keep that P2 as Lucas Weber wins the Brazilian Grand Prix. He's dominated this one ever since he got that first place and we started fighting the Red Bull cars. Butler comes home in second place. We come home in third. It's still a 1, 2, 3, 4 for the top 4 in the championship once again. But this now sets up a very interesting finale there. P3 for us, and it goes on to Abu Dhabi.
Good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Renault. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
As today's winners make their way up the podium steps, the team at Renault have shown once again what it takes to build a successful Formula One team. A well-deserved win for them.
So it's Weber, Butler and myself on the podium. I wonder if that's going to be the picture next episode to finish out this season and decide the championship, because that is now what it comes down to. Because following this, Weber with 25 points, Butler with 18 and myself with 15. It puts us in a decent position still. You know, we're still the one with the control somewhat. We're still the one in the lead of the championship, albeit by only a measly 3 points. But we still have that kind of at least advantage of being ahead on points, not having to chase up the points. But of course that means we still have to, you know, do the job next episode. If we lose out, you know, to Weber, let's say we lose out to Weber, we come second, he comes first next episode, that's him with the championship. So there's I'm sure a lot of permutations for, you know, where we can finish, where they can finish. With 3 people involved, that gets even more complex, not just a 2-horse race, because Butler is within quite nicely 7 points, so that makes things quite awkward. Because if I was to finish in third and him first, I don't know how on earth that would be decided, and then where on earth Weber is in that equation is another thing. So it's all very complex and all very, very tense and interesting going into next episode. Then it is going to be a 3-way championship deciding fight between myself, Lucas Weber and Devin Butler, our 2 F2 story mode AI drivers. Guys, if you did enjoy what was quite a hectic and action-packed Brazilian Grand Prix, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do subscribe for weekly Formula One content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.